Steve Vai, welcome to the I Heart Guitar podcast.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Why, thank you. First of all, I saw this morning that your book just won an award for graphic design excellence. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that was very exciting. The folks at Hal Leonard were very generous with my requests. They did a great job, and the book, I was surprised it's selling so well.
Yeah.
Starting to get translated into various languages.
I swear, I go onto Instagram and everybody I know has got a copy and they're posing with it and stuff. So, yeah.
Great.
So the main purpose of this interview is to talk up the Generation X album, which I've been listening to, and the first thing I was wondering is, when mixing something like this, is it difficult to work with the egos of 5 lead guitarists, one of whom was yourself? Because you know what we lead guitarists are like.
Did you say when mixing it?
Yeah.
Well, no, because when you're mixing something like this, there's a certain protocol, and that protocol is, for me at least, as an engineer, because I basically produced the record and edited it and mixed it, and I engineered it. I did everything except master it, because that's where I kind of draw the line. Mm. But the guys have a particular faith in my ear.
Yeah.
So what I did was, I had 7 different shows that were recorded in Asia, and the best sounding one was from Guangzhou, China, because the room, you listen for the room. That's the first thing, because that's what gives a live recording its atmosphere. And this particular room just sounded really sweet. It had the right walls, the right shape. Some of the other rooms sounded okay. Some were way too bright. Some were way too live. The microphone wasn't working, like Japan. But so I used the show in Guangzhou as the foundation, and then would cut in sections from various shows that I thought had the best performance. And when it came time I'm a guitar player, and I know these guys, and I know when they're really on, and just like I know when I'm playing my best. And so I went and I chose what I thought was the best, and then, of course, I would send it to them, and they'd either approve it or make some comments. And everybody really liked what I chose and the way that I edited it. And then when it came time to mix it, there's just a protocol, the rhythms, the drums need to sound a particular way in rock music, and the bass has to fill out a particular way. And the rhythm guys that are playing rhythm, they need to be located at a particular place in the mix to create clarity. Mm-hmm. And whoever's soloing, you got to find the sweet spot where the guitar is floating on top of the mix, but it's not overly loud, so it's annoying, and it can't be buried, so you have to struggle to listen. And I just know where that real estate, that audio real estate is. No one said anything or complained at all, not even once, about the level of anything. There's no egos like, I need to be louder than that guy. That's the difficult thing was everybody's got such a vastly different guitar tone that when you listen on various speakers, like you get someone like Tosin, that his rig, the notes are very clear and clean, but in the bottom end it has a contemporary sound, because he uses digital gear and stuff. So that translates into the audio spectrum very differently than someone like Nuno, whose sound is really kind of round and pristine and almost like machine gun like. You can mix Nuno soft in a mix, and he's still going to sound loud because he just penetrates. His tone penetrates. Where someone like me, my tone is more. It's flatter and more compressed. And it has bottom end, but it doesn't penetrate as much, And you got Zakk, who has a real, a real bump in the mid range. So what I'm getting at is, you might listen to the record on one set of speakers, And it might sound like some guys are louder than the other, but you go and you listen on another set, and it sounds different. But the idea was to create a cohesive sound that what I had in mind when I was mixing the harmonies is Brian May.
Yeah.
He is the master of harmonized guitars, and everything is always perfect and right, and beautiful. And that's what I was trying to emulate. I would just think of Brian.
Yeah. And that brings me to my next topic, which is that there's a lot of orchestration going on here, obviously. It's not just, hey, call out a cover song and we'll noodle over it. It's some really carefully thought out pieces. I mean, I even saw video of you guys doing Bohemian Rhapsody and each taking a part. And, that kind of thing is really, showing the guitar in one of its most sort of elegant lights, I think.
Thank you. Well, when you have, I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, that was, I was waiting for your answer.
Yeah. Well, when you have five crazy guitar players like that with those big fat tones, you have to make sure it's organized. I mean, that was a prerequisite. That's the concept of the whole tour, basically, is clarity and organization. It's like organized chaos, because I've done so many guitar tours and I've been on stage with a lot of guitar players, and if the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing, it always sounds like a mess. It's like, okay, let's play this song, and you show up and everybody's playing rhythm, and the solo guy is, battling, and I just want, we didn't want that, and I love the sound of electric guitars and harmony. It's just such a fulfilling vibration, it resonates in the heart, in the soul of people, some people, and it just feels so good when they're in tune and they're all playing beautifully, and so we worked pretty hard on that. And you take a song like Highway Star, where I've played Highway Star with many different kinds of bands, and most of the time it's just a mess, I mean, you know what's going on, but so what we did was I split up all the parts, so everybody had a part, or they didn't have a part, and that was fine. But when we come together in something like that historic solo that Richie played, and you got 5 guitar players in screaming harmony, all completely locked. I mean, that's like, it feels so good. And unfortunately, Bohemian Rhapsody is not on the new record because we didn't really work it up until the third tour. I've got it on the shelf, and that is going to, I think, some people are hearing it now on YouTube, through an iPhone, which is like, it's like a dagger in my heart, you know what I mean? Yeah. Because the way we play it, we worked so hard on that. We got every one of Freddie's vocals, and it's all instrumental. And, when you're doing something like that, especially that whole intro, you got 5 guys, you can't mess around. You have to respect that arrangement, and it required us to intensely listen to each other, because we got as forensic as, like, in this part here where you pluck the note with your finger, and it's got to be on this pickup at this level, and there's no vibrato, which is really hard if you're used to doing vibrato, and it has to start exactly on this note and end exactly at this spot, So you have to listen to each other. You have to be completely in tune with each other. There's no separateness in it. And it's a really beautiful thing, man. It was like standing up there and playing that song, and many of the other songs with those guys is just like, it makes every day Christmas,
Yeah, yeah. So one of the other very cool things about this record is you have Pete Griffin on bass, who is, I think he's, whoever he's playing with, he's like the secret weapon.
Yeah, he's got incredible ears, and he has diversity of tone, and he knows how to rock out, and he also knows how to lay back, and he knows how to play very complex music if necessary. And he also knows how to. He's just a great guy to have on tour and to have in a band. You don't have, it's like I don't have to worry. I didn't have to worry at all. And when I was listening back to all the live tracks, he was as consistent and solid as you can be. You know. All the backing band in and of itself, we just completely lucked out. You know. J.P. Bouvet is like a phenomenon. I mean, this kid. The hardest thing to do with Generation X, I mean, as far as the band goes, is people think, oh, it must have been very difficult to get, these 5 crazy guitar players to, play together like this. And that was easy because everybody saw the big picture. The difficult thing was getting everybody's schedule together, But the real difficult thing was finding the right drummer. Because Tosin's music is like, it's extraordinarily complex in ways that even elude me, And but to him, it's natural. And we had a drummer, Matt Garska, in the beginning, who was Tosin's drummer, and he's a fabulous drummer, and he's really good at doing that kind of thing. And he could rock out pretty good. But it was so demanding. The backing band, it was ridiculously demanding. They had the hardest job because there's these long rehearsals, because you got to remember, you got 5 guitar players, and each one of them has songs. And, when Yngwie's rehearsing his songs, I don't have to be there, you know what I mean? But the band has to be there all the time, and they have to be at every sound check, and the sound checks are long, and then the shows are really long. I mean, in the beginning when we had Matt Garska, he basically started to get damaged. His hands started to really, it was creating damage, so he had to leave the tour. So in the middle of the first tour, we had to replace him. And it just was so difficult to find a drummer that could play the complex stuff but understands rock and roll. You'd be surprised, how when you need a fill that just goes boom, and you get these guys doing jazz fills and shit, it just doesn't work. Yeah. But JP was a real soldier.
Yeah. Something I've wanted to ask you about for a very long time. I've been reading a lot of stuff about magical thinking and incorporating that into creativity and stuff. And I've noticed little things, throughout your career, the 777, Third Eye on the Universe, the Conks tape on your guitars. Is that something that you have, obviously you must have researched it for it to appear, but is that something that you kind of consciously draw on these days?
Well, it was a process of evolution, and it kind of started when I was very young. I remember being 6 years old and standing in my front yard looking out at the sky going, what's going on around here? What is this? What is this all about? And, that put me on a search, and I've really been a seeker of spiritual truth, trying to kind of figure out life, so to speak. And there was a period in my life when I was 20 and between the ages of 20 and 21 where I went through a very difficult time mentally, psychologically. Was very confused, very depressed, couldn't really figure out why, didn't know anything. And I found this bookstore called the Bodhi Tree in Hollywood that was like a metaphysical bookstore, and they had everything in it from, everything from Eastern philosophies, every kind of religion, UFOs, numerology, astrology, or anything that you can think of, witchcraft. And I just absorbed, that's what I spent a lot of focus and time on, because a lot of these studies kind of help you to turn the magnifying glass around and look at yourself. And it was very helpful to me But through the years, I continued. So in that period when you were talking about, you see symbolism and stuff like pyramids and the numbers and all that. That was more or less a phase I was going through.
Yeah.
I was being spiritual, so to speak. But as I continued, and it led me to things like meditation and just real soul searching. And when you're looking for something, there's a great potential to find it if you want it bad enough. And my searches led me to some really great teachers and some really great writings, and I found what I was looking for. And it kind of really started to come together for me about six to 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to report that Steve Vai is a very happy guy.
That's fantastic. Do you have... let's turn this back to guitar gear. I'd love to talk to you about this stuff for ages, but we better talk guitar gear for the guitar nerds listening. Do you have any current gear obsessions? I noticed you've got the Synergy amps about to make its debut.
Yeah, that is my obsession. When I discovered the Synergy system, I felt like like a monolith appeared because usually the protocol is you have an amplifier that has 2 to 3 channels, and it's one manufacturer, and it usually has a particular tone. And if you're adventurous, you might set up 2 or 3 amps, Big pain in the ass when you got to travel.
Yeah.
And then balance all your levels and try to get effects and stuff like that. But Synergy really designed something incredible, and that's the reason why I'm talking about them so much, because I kind of feel like, as a guitar player, when I discovered the Synergy system, it's relatively new. I mean, the model has kind of been around for a while, but they really brought it home. And when I discovered it, it opens up so many vistas that I almost feel like it's my responsibility to tell other guitar players about it, because what they do is it's not modeling. I'm not really a fan of modeling, or I should say, I use it occasionally, but it never really kind of fills my ear with what I'm looking to hear, and it never works with my fingers because there's always latency.
Yeah.
But what Synergy did was they're owned by a company called Boutique Audio, and what Boutique Audio does is they actually build the amplifiers and ship them for many of our favorite boutique amplifier companies like Diesel and Friedman and Soldano and so many, So what they did was they created these modules, and the modules are actually the preamp sections of these amplifiers. And the preamp section of an amplifier is really where most of the tone is. It's where you got your EQs and your gain structures and things like that. And then the amplifier section just amplifies basically the preamp section. And the amplifier section, of course, it has some effect on the quality of the tone, but power is power, and good, clean power is all you need in an amplifier section. But what Synergy did was they licensed the technology from all of these boutique amplifier companies to create these modules that are exact replicas of the schematics that exist in these boutique amps. They've got tubes in them and everything.
Yeah.
And, I heard about it, but I didn't quite believe it would work. And then, they brought the setup, and I checked it out, and I was just dumbfounded. Because, for instance, I have 3 racks of modules, and there's 2 modules in a rack. So I have 6 modules. So I have 6 different amplifiers and 2 channels of each. And plus, there's a loop, so you can put like a full-blown kind of amp into the system. But you can just get 1 module or 2 modules, and it allows me to between amplifiers, and I did real forensic testing on these amps, on these modules. I went and got originals, like I checked Friedman amplifiers with the Friedman module, and the Bassman or the Plexi or the Deluxe or the AC30. I brought out my AC30 and I checked it out, and there was diesel, and these, they sound just like the amplifiers that you're, the full amplifiers. Of course, the amplifier section has a little bit of a color in it, but with this system, I can take all these amps and just put them through one system. So I'll come out of the Synergy and go into my Axe effects, and then out of that into the power amps. And anytime I switch an amp, any effects that I want to have go through it are there. So this is kind of like, it's like increasing your power. It's like going from lifting 125 pounds easily to lifting like 800 pounds easily,
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, that looks like our time up. So thanks so much for the chat, Steve.